This is Washington Watch. You're listening to, and I'm Tony Perkins, your host. So glad you are with us. The website is tonyperkins.com. If you miss anything on your way home, you can find it all later at tonyperkins.com. All our programs archived right there. Plus, there's other resources for you there. And let me also encourage you to text us if you want to stay in connection with us, contact with us on things that are happening here in Washington, making sure you stay informed. You can't trust some of these media sources anymore. They cut people off. If you want to stay in touch with conservatives, text the word STAND to 67742, 67742. Keep you updated on events coming up like the Pray Vote Stand Town Hall, the way forward that's coming up on February the 10th. So text STAND to 67742. All right, I mentioned this earlier, talked about it yesterday. Last Friday, on the anniversary of Roe v. Wade, Bishop Robert Brennan was celebrating a Respect Life Mass in Columbus, Ohio, when pro-abortion activists stormed into the church and interrupted the Mass. Now, interestingly enough, there was a 1994 federal law, and I remember this because I was a reporter back at that time, covering Operation Rescue. They were big at that time. They were having these blockades out in front of abortion clinics. So Congress passed a bill called FACE. It was the Freedom of Access to Clinic Entrances Act. And it was designed to shut down the pro-life demonstrators by making it a federal crime to block the entrances to an abortion clinic. Now, in the process of that bill passing, I think it was Orrin Hatch of Utah, who's now retired, a senator, who amended it to add places of worship, making what happened on Friday in Columbus a federal offense. The question is, will they be charged with a crime? Joining me now to talk about what transpired and what it could mean for the safety and sanctity of church services going forward is the Ohio Attorney General, Dave Yost. General Yost, welcome to the program.
It's good to be with you. Thanks for the invite.
So I know that we're talking a federal crime here, but I'm sure there were local laws that were violated there. Do you know what the status is of whether or not there's going to be criminal charges in this case there in Columbus?
That falls under the city attorney of Columbus, and I've been in discussions with him. He hasn't received the investigative package from the police department yet. But he knows that I'm interested in the case. The interesting thing here to me is the only real charge here. There may be a couple of legal theories to get a more serious charge, but the main charge would be a fourth-degree misdemeanor, only punishable by a maximum of 30 days in jail, called disrupting a lawful meeting. Mm-hmm. Surprisingly, California. Of all places, has a much better law that protects any religious service from being disrupted. And it's a first-degree misdemeanor up to a year in jail and a $1,000 fine. So I've already had some discussions here in Ohio with legislators that maybe we ought to import that California law into Ohio.
A good idea, because I think this is something we're going to see more of. You know, what happened on January the 6th here was despicable, and what happened at the Capitol. And there are those that are accusing conservatives of being responsible for that, for their rhetoric and for their speeches. Well, clearly, when you look at what these demonstrators were saying inside of this church, in fact, talking about repealing Hyde, which is the same thing that Nancy Pelosi and her party are working for on Capitol Hill, I mean, I would expect that we're going to see more of this disrespecting of churches with this pro-abortion, anti-religious freedom message.
You know, the Mass was actually going on when they burst in. This wasn't the beginning or the end of the thing, the Mass, and it didn't happen outside the cathedral. They actually pushed past security and stormed the cathedral and chanted in the middle of it, 2468, your church preaches hate. It's so disrespectful. You mentioned the act from 1994. A little-known provision, I don't know that it's ever been used in this way.
It has not.
Gives a state attorney, the state attorney general has the right to go, not to file criminal charges, but to bring a civil lawsuit and seek an injunction against people that violate the disruption provisions of that law.
Right.
And we're looking at that right now, Tony. We may be taking some legal action under that provision.
Well, General Yost, I think you would be the first, because I don't think the act has ever been utilized in the protection of religious freedom as it is included in this. In fact, I mean, the U.S. Attorney General does have the authority to institute criminal charges. In fact, they're quite significant here. But I think this would go a long way in shutting down this targeting of religious services for this type of disruption. I mean, I don't think we can tolerate this.
Well, one of the cool things about the civil action is that it allows the federal court to impose what we call an injunction, or a court order that says you may not do a certain thing. And taking a page out of the Operation Rescue litigation, I think it's very possible that we could ask for and potentially win from a federal court an injunction or an order that says not only do you have to stay away from St. Joseph's, but you're not allowed to protest, closer than 100 feet on the outside of any house of worship. So that we send a message that sacred places are sacred.
Yeah.
This is the reason why 1 Timothy 2:2 tells us to pray for those in authority so that we may live peaceful and quiet lives in all godliness and holiness.
I couldn't have said it better myself. General Yost, I want to thank you not only for joining us today, but thank you for already being on top of this. And I would love to talk with you more once you decide what action to take, because if you're the first Attorney General to take action on this statute, I want to talk about it here on Washington Watch.
Let's talk about it again.
All right. Attorney General Dave Yost of Ohio, great Buckeye State.